Thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. This is a collaboration between IPSF Euro and UFA Next to celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So welcome to the Women in Science panel discussion. For you today, we have prepared three speakers who will first introduce themselves, so share a bit about their background and their career. And afterwards, we will proceed to the panel discussion. We have gathered questions from the forum and from the Instagram stories, but if you have any more questions, please drop them in the chat below. So without any further ado, please welcome our first speaker, Miss Bianca. And Miss Bianca, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you, Philip, for introducing me, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and happy to give back to pharmacy and not only students. I'm Bianca Băluță. I come originally from Romania, but now I'm based in Brussels. I'm a pharmacist by training since 2019, but with a master's degree in international health policy at London School of Economics. I must admit that I identify myself more with the health policy background than with the pharmacy one. But I must admit that the pharmacy training and the faculty was essential for my development and for who I am now and what I'm working on. During the faculty, I had the opportunity to be part of the National Student Association in Romania, and that really changed my career path. It came with a lot of responsibility, with a lot of work as a job mainly, but it also expanded and broadened my expertise and my knowledge. It helped me develop my network of professionals, and also gave me the opportunity to see other part of the pharmacy, maybe the one that it can't be seen during the formal education in the faculty. So afterwards, I joined a pharmaceutical company. I worked in the market access field. So I was in charge with pricing and reimbursement for oncological products in Romania. I stayed there for 3 years, but then I felt that I need some international experience and also to expand my expertise in the access part, because I was passionate about access. I still am access of to medicines for patients. So I went to London for the master degree, and it was also a transformative experience because I managed to gain knowledge, theoretical, but also practical, and also to be part of a multicultural environment that allowed me to see what happens in other parts of the world. So for me, that was essential. And after this experience as a student in I think I was a little bit too idealistic and also a little bit naive that, okay, I want to change the healthcare system in Romania. I didn't change it, but I still have time. So I'm young enough to still go back there and to help. I stayed there for almost a year working on the department, basically on access, but also reform projects with the European Commission. I think that it was a learning experience. I managed to see what can be done, what is the reality on the ground. So a little bit of reality check in terms of policies, but it was also a sort of frustrating experience that I wanted to do more, but I didn't have exactly the context. So mainly that was the reason I left at that point in time. And after this experience, I had a chance to see how is the impact on the ground, so a tangible impact. And then I said, okay, I need an international experience. The impact from the public sector at the European level is like. So it was a little bit of another angle of the public sector impact, so more macro level at the European in the European institution. So I have been working in the Commission for the last 5 months. It is still an amazing experience. I had, I think I would say that I had luck to be in a team that really allowed me to contribute, to use my expertise and my knowledge also from the national government to really have an impact on the policies that are being designed at the European level. And I received a lot of freedom and a lot of empowerment to contribute as a normal member of the. And now I'm in Brussels, and I will stay on the health part. So I will continue on the health policy because that's my my expertise for the moment. And basically, somehow my main mantra, to say so, in looking for experiences and choosing experiences, professionally speaking, is like to have to be meaningful experiences and to also have a bigger purpose than the individual one. Okay, so I have these resources, how I can give back to society and to the people that basically need it. And I think that's a little bit my background educationally and professionally. I hope I covered it, but I'm open for other questions if needed. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I really like that mantra. It's something we can all bring into our own lives and our careers. If you have any questions for Ms. Bianca, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will answer those during the panel discussion. And now I'm moving on to the second speaker, Ms. Emma Paulina. You may take the floor.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Emma. I'm a pharmacist from Portugal. I did bring some slides or pictures, so I will share my screen. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I did prepare these some of these slides for another session on gender equity, actually, and it was around the time when the last season of the Game of Thrones series came out. So I'm sorry about the the topic, well, the atmosphere, but basically I will not go into detail in terms of equality and equity, but because we are talking about women and women and girls in science, I think that this is an underlying topic which I believe is very important in terms of what is equality and what is equity and why we are discussing this still an age. Just to acknowledge that there are many definitions around the world, and some people use equality, some people use equity in terms of when we are talking about women and gender issues. So I thought I'd bring some topics before I introduce myself. Basically, like I said, sometimes they're used interchangeably, but in a way they're not completely the same. And I think that it is important when we are talking about these issues to understand the differences between equality and equity when we are talking about women's rights and the opportunities that they have when we are talking about specifically science. And when we are talking about equality, usually what we mean is that we want to achieve equality as the end goal, and equity is really the means to get there. So I think that it is important, the terminology, and I guess that we will be able to speak a little bit more about that probably during the panel. To me, so I thought that I'd bring to you some pictures to talk about myself, because history is important. So I thought I'd bring you first a picture of my grandparents, and these are my grandparents that you see in the first picture there. It was approximately 60 years ago, and just to let you know that they were both pharmacists, and they opened their first pharmacy in Almada. That's where I'm from, which is a city across the river from Lisbon. And they were truly the inspiration for me to become a pharmacist. I got to understand and grow up in an environment that clearly depicted the importance that pharmacists have in terms of promoting individual health and in terms of the impact that the pharmacist has in society, particularly when we are practicing in community pharmacy. So I thought it was important to bring my grandparents' picture here just for you to understand how I did go into pharmacy. Then that's my mom and me in the second picture. So I was the first baby, and actually this is my birthday today. So this is a picture not many months after I was born in 1976. Then the third picture, it's me and my brother and my sister. And the reason why I thought I'd bring this photo is because both my brother and my sister are also pharmacists. So we are the third generation pharmacists because my mom is also a pharmacist. And now my oldest nephew, which is the only one that's in university, still, he's also in pharmacy school. Actually, he's in the same year as Marta, who's also participating in this call. But the reason why me and my brother and my sister went into, I'm sure it was the same reason I already described to you. It was really about influence and growing up in an environment where we saw the importance, but also the responsibility that community pharmacists have in terms of impacting on people's health. Then I brought you another picture. This is from high school. And the reason why I thought I'd bring you a picture from high school is because this is from a meeting from the Pharmacy Association. And this is when I started in not Pharmacy Association, so High School Students Association. So this is when I started in student associations, and it really was something that I was really engaged with and something that stuck with me afterwards, as you will see in my professional career. So then the other picture, it's me and the fellow pharmacy student colleague from the University of Lisbon. And this is a picture of one of the sessions that we organized whilst I was in the Students Association at the Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Lisbon. We went to different schools and high schools and to talk about HIV at that time. It was a big issue and a big topic at the time. So we went to high schools and we introduced the topic of sexual health, which wasn't something that teachers were very comfortable with. And we talked about the use of condoms and how you could protect yourself from infections, other sexual transmitted diseases. So I continued in the Pharmacy Students Association at school. Then I went on to become president of the Portuguese Pharmacy Association. And that is when I then started attending the international conferences, student conferences like IPSF and EPSA. After a while, I became Secretary General of EPSA, so the European Pharmacy Students Federation Association, and I moved to Leiden in the Netherlands, where the permanent office for the EPSA was at that time, and that is when I also did my practice period in the Netherlands, so in a community pharmacy in the Netherlands. So that was a really good opportunity to get to know community pharmacies outside Portugal, because I already knew community pharmacy in Portugal. So I spent a year there. Like I said, I was Secretary General of EPSA. I was doing my practice period, and I was also introduced to pharmacy practice research, in which I'm also still involved in right now. So when I was in the Netherlands, I visited the office of the International Pharmaceutical Federation. And at that time, the FIP, the International Pharmaceutical Federation, which represents pharmacists, pharmacy educators, and pharmaceutical scientists around the world, they were very interested in attracting younger people to the organization and engaging with younger people. So basically, when I visited their office, they asked me for some ideas and how we could involve more pharmacy students in the organization early on, and how we could attract young pharmacists to the organization. So after a while, I came back to Portugal. I started practicing, and I got a phone call from the Secretary General of the FIP at that time, and he invited me to relaunch the Young Pharmacists Group in the FIP. So I participated in that effort alongside two colleagues of mine, and I became a project coordinator of the YPG, which is the picture you could see there. I think this one was at a conference in New Orleans, I believe. And then I was project coordinator for 2 years, and then president, chairperson of the Young Pharmacists Group of the FIP for 1 year. After that, I continued with my engagement in the International Pharmaceutical Federation. And this is a picture, I believe it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I became the first woman that was part of the executive committee of the FIP in 100 years of history. I even didn't know about that before I became one, but it was quite impressive that in 100 years of history, no women had ever been part of the executive committee. This was a picture, like I said, maybe 5 years ago, and you can already see that we see a lot of younger people and the women, which was something that the Federation really wanted when we launched the Young Pharmacists Group in 2005. So I think that we really achieved some rejuvenating the organization in a while. At the same time as I was doing my career, if we can call it that, at the International Pharmaceutical Federation, I also I practice as a community pharmacist in Portugal. I have my own community pharmacies alongside my brother and my sister. I do pharmacy practice research, so I am a member of the board of the Pharmaceutical Care Network Europe. I was president 2 years ago. I also launched, alongside my husband, who's also a pharmacist, we launched 3 companies in Portugal to help community pharmacists implement pharmaceutical care services and interventions. So I'm also involved in that. And at the national level, I became, I was, for a number of years after I finished my university degree, I was a member of the board of the National Pharmacy Association, which is the owners association in Portugal. Then I became president of the South Branch for the registration organization in Portugal, the Pharmacists Registration Organization, which is the Pharmaceutical Society. Then I became a member of the national board. And then 2 years ago, me and some colleagues, we ran for election for the National Pharmacy Association board, and I'm now president of that organization since 1.5 years ago, which has been quite a challenge. It's quite a big organization, but it's really been also a very interesting learning experience. So in terms of sorry, I spent so much time talking about myself, but I have a few more years experience than the previous speaker. So I had to try to summarize it a little bit, but I'm more than happy to then expand on any of these experiences if you're interested in. And I just brought another picture. This is me and some friends and my sister at the Coachella Festival, the Music and Arts Festival in California, because having fun is also pretty much a very big part of my life as well, particularly listening to music and traveling. So I thought I'd also bring that about myself to you in this initial presentation. So thank you very much again for your invitation, and looking forward to expand on some of this information in the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Ms. Paulino. It was really interesting to see your career, and happy birthday. Thank you for joining us today. If any of you participants have any questions for Ms. Emma, please leave them in the chat below, and we'll proceed to the third and final speaker, Ms. Aysu. Ms. Aysu, please take the floor, and I will be sharing your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Philip. My name is Aysu Selçuk. I am assistant professor at Ankara University and Education and Primary Healthcare Policy Specialist at FIP. Before starting my presentation, I would like to thank IPSF, European Regional Office, for inviting me to share my career journey. So we can move to next slide, please. Okay, so I graduated from Ankara University with the rank 3rd out of 200 students. During my university life, I was very particular student to attend all my classes and take notes. All my friends were waiting for my notes to study for the exams. My home was very far from the university, so I had to wake up early for the morning classes and came to school early not to get stuck at the traffic. And during these years, one of my friends told me that I was like a snowdrop flower which blooms under rocks. From the first year that I met faculty dean and vice deans, I was inspired from them and wanted to become an academician, but I didn't know which pharmacy field I should choose. After taking pharmaceutical care modules, I decided to continue my career with clinical pharmacy, where I can focus on patient-centered care and directly interact with patients and solve their needs through pharmacy. So I applied to Marmara University for a clinical pharmacy degree, for a master's degree. The clinical pharmacy program was in another city, so I needed to leave my comfort zone and move to the city where I live with my parents and move on. I always seek to have the best education that I can get. At that time in Turkey, only Marmara University had the master's program with academic staff already educated in the clinical pharmacy. So you can also see some of my photos from graduation and during my studies in Ankara University and Marmara University. We can move on to the next slide. So I will continue with my education again. During my master's studies, I also had a chance to visit Tennessee State University to observe several hospitals and community pharmacies in the United States. And I made many friends from whom I am still in touch. This visit has broadened my view that I should continue my studies abroad. Then I started looking for a scholarship for a PhD degree. I was granted Singapore International Graduate Award from the National University of Singapore, NUS. NUS is one of the highest ranking universities in the world, and the academic staff was very knowledgeable and supportive. During my years, I had an amazing time in Singapore, and when looking back, I am very lucky to have met my supervisors and friends who are now like family to me. So again, you can see some pictures there from my PhD graduation, photos with my supervisors and family, as well as some hospital visits that I had a chance to see some practices in United States. So next slide, please. Coming back today, in Ankara University Faculty of Pharmacy Department of Clinical Pharmacy, I am the vice head and the first academic staff who holds a PhD degree in clinical pharmacy. I am also supporting our faculty's journal as one of the associate editors in clinical pharmacy. And now I have a woman, a dean, who is also very supportive to do more in science and education. You may see two of my publications that I am most proud of. The publication in our left-hand side is about inappropriate antimicrobial use in hospitals in Turkey, and it shows the need for pharmacists' contribution to improve practice. And in the publication in our right-hand side is about the first nationwide pharmaceutical care program and CPD implementation in Turkey for community pharmacists. It is a collaborative work with the Turkish Pharmacists Association to improve community pharmacy practices for common chronic diseases like diabetes, COPD, asthma, and hypertension care. So we can move to the next slide, please. And I am also working with the FIP team for more than 3 years. Together with the FIP team, we delivered many projects that I am proud of. One of them is about enabling positive practice environments for women in science and education with FIPWISE Toolkit. You can see the image of the publication in the slide. And the toolkit identifies factors associated with the positive practice environments and provides solutions for policymakers, managers, employers, and professionals worldwide. And during FIP Congress last year in Seville, I had the chance to meet several women who had many achievements, innovations, and significant impacts in pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences. You can see the image of these women as well in the slides, and they are the FIP's rising stars. And I am very proud of coordinating this project and meeting those impactful women. And next slide, please. So besides my academic career, I also have some social activities. One of my passion has always been dancing, especially the Turkish folk dance. I really wanted to join university so that I could also join a student group for folk dance. But when I started the university, I saw there was no such group in our faculty. And in my first year, I got support from the faculty and students representatives to establish the first folk dance club in our faculty. And when I went to Singapore for my PhD, I met members of the Singapore-Turkey Friendship Associations, which organize volunteer events to participate in Singapore Parade. And I volunteered to teach folk dance to Turkish and Singaporean people to perform together with the professional dancers in the Singapore Parade. So you can see the image on your left-hand side from the Singapore Parade. And I was also a cluster leader in my dormitory in Singapore. This is my first experience that I am staying in dormitory after many years of education in university. So together with my cluster team, we held a food competition. And now I am also our faculty's representative for community contribution activities. So we are trying to improve health literacy and also support our community to improve medication use. And there's an image you can see in the right-hand side. It is from our visit for a rural secondary school to improve students' awareness about rational medication use. So next slide, please. So during my career, I met many great leaders and professors. You may see some familiar faces there. So also their names are in the slide, so I will not name them one by one. But without their support and acting as a role model, I wouldn't be able to achieve so many things. And I also would like to thank my family, who has always supported me throughout my life. I hope I was able to give you a glimpse of who I am as a person. And again, I would like to thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer questions from the audience. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ms. Aysu, for sharing with us. It was truly an amazing presentation. So for all the participants, if you have any questions for Ms. Aysu or for any of the speakers, please leave them in the comments below. I'm sure you're as much as impressed with their careers as much as I am. And we will now proceed to the panel discussion. So for this, I would like to introduce Ms. Susana Fernando, who is the IPSF Euro Public Health Coordinator, as Ms. Marta Tendeiro, who is the IPSF Euro Project Assistant, who will be joining me in the panel discussion. So without any further ado, the first question, which was submitted by the participants, was, why did you choose your field of work? So, So for this, I would first like to call Ms. Bianca. So why did you choose your field of work?
Thank you for the question. I think that first of all, when I chose to join the Faculty of Pharmacy was mainly because I wanted to help and I wanted to give back and to be in the service to those that's needed. During the faculty, then I realized that I'm passionate about systemical changes or systemical reforms. So my aim back then was, okay, how can I have a more systemic impact? And I think that that's why I chose the policy part. And it was also because I was exposed due to my involvement in the NGO for students. I was exposed to different roles of the pharmacists in the healthcare system, or in the health systems, to say so, besides the one that we already were studying in the faculty. And back then, I think it still is the case for Romania, is that the health system needs reforms, needs not only incremental changes, but really huge changes. And I said, okay, I may want to learn about the policy part in order to be able to help Romania as a country, as a health system. And I was also exposed to different countries that had pharmacies around the healthcare system. For example, in other countries than Romania, there are a lot of pharmacy students in the regulatory, in the pricing and reimbursement authorities, in the health insurance institutions. And I think that we are essential in each part of the health system. And that's why I chose the basically my field of work to try to have a systemic impact in society, or I don't know, it depends on where I activate. And it was also because it was something that it was not the usual thing that we were taught to do. And it was a new field, a new domain. It required very, I don't know, a lot of self-directed learning, additional to what I've learned in the faculty. It was more challenging, but I think it was a lot of exploration and a lot of curiosity in trying new things.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Then we go to Miss Emma Paulina. So why did you just choose this career? We saw you come from a line of pharmacists, but why did you specifically choose this career?
So yes, so I knew I wanted to be a pharmacist since I was a little girl. So because and I went to the pharmacy after school, and I loved the compounding, interacting with people. I loved that it was also had like a management part of it in the back office. But I really enjoyed everything at school. So I really enjoyed all subjects at school. So being part of a students association really allowed me to expand on my other types of skills in terms of organization, time management, and also that systemic part impact that Bianca was talking about, which we can also have whilst we are in organizations that represent individuals or companies or enterprises or whatever. So I really I really enjoyed that part. So and then when I tried research, I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, and I really want to have a bigger impact. Also, I wanted to have a bigger impact in terms of driving pharmacy forward and advancing pharmacy practice and pharmaceutical care. So I guess that's why today I'm practicing at a community pharmacy. I'm an entrepreneur with my husband in terms of initiatives to advance pharmacy practice and implement practice changes, also doing some research and also being part of an organization. So I managed to do all of this whilst being a pharmacist. So I think that my involvement in these different aspects in the pharmacy world has allowed me to really exercise a very large set of skills and always keep myself motivated and stimulated in terms of learning new things, interacting with new people, and also that interesting mix of impacting individual health whilst I'm interacting with people in the community pharmacy, but also influencing at the political level when I'm talking to the health minister or when I'm participating at WHO assemblies. So that's a mix of the public health and systemic change and also the individual outcomes. And I really like to combine both. Because I really think that it's like a synergy in terms of the narrative that I have and the knowledge that I apply both at the community pharmacy, but then the other organizations and places where I'm at. It's really good to have the practice experience alongside also having developed myself in terms of the political and the research aspects as well.
Great, thank you for your insight. Yes, it seems all three of the speakers started from like a student association and then developed their career, which is really interesting, and also called to the participants to join IPSF and other student associations. Okay, and moving on to Ms. Aysu, why did you choose your career?
So I decided to work in clinical pharmacy field because it is where I can contribute to direct patient care. And I always want to do more for those who need better quality of care. And being in clinical pharmacy field helps me to provide patient-centered care and focus on scientific studies to improve pharmacy practice. And I also wanted to work in academia and at FIP to improve our profession through partnerships, education, and science. As working with one of the leading pharmacy organizations, we are able to support our colleagues and students to achieve their aims and thus advance pharmacy worldwide. So having a two role, one in academia and FIP, also helped me to feed in each roles, because what I learned in academia I can use for FIP, and what I learned at FIP I can also use in academia, so that I can also do my work better in a high quality.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone. And my question, which are two questions, is what were the biggest obstacles you had to overcome? And did you ever think that it would be easier or harder if you were a male? And I'll give the floor to Miss Emma first.
I think that our worst enemy is always ourselves. So really, whilst I was reflecting on this question, really, I think that I'm a very optimistic person. So I always see like the glass full, the half glass full, instead of the half glass empty. So actually, I think that throughout my career, I think I had a lot of opportunities because I was a woman and because I was young. Because people were more aware of the need to include diversity. And this was something that was already achieved by the generations that precede us. And I think that there was more awareness about that need. So that was the topic of the discussion when the Secretary General called me at the FIP office and said, we need more young people and we need more women in the organization. Particularly, we have white old men in the organization. So we want to change that for the organization. So I think that me being always having said yes to challenges, and at the same time, that awareness about inclusivity and the fact that, and I'm not saying I'm not here being modest. I'm not just saying that it was simply chance or opportunity I think that I also worked a lot for that. I worked to be in the right place at the right time. I always fought to be sitting at the table when the important discussions were held. And I always prepared myself very well for discussions and for any meetings I attended. So, of course, it had an individual component to it. But it was also about context. And in some circumstances, I do think that being a female and being young in a male, older sector, it was kind of refreshing for maybe sometimes. But now that I think about it, I do think that there were a lot, some unconscious bias, if I can say so myself. Yeah, I think that I had to be better prepared than anyone else, because people expected to hear from me in the discussions, and they had expected to hear something clever and thoughtful. So whilst there were other people sitting at the table and they weren't asked to contribute, and they weren't expected to, they just were there and they kind of belonged there. Whereas for me, I do think that I had to be extra prepared and I had to go the extra mile. But I think there was a mix of facilitators and not barriers, but a lot of work to be done to then be able to say, okay, I got here, and maybe it was because you noticed me because I was a woman and because I was young, but now that I'm here, you'd better listen because I have something important to say. And I think that that's what dominated, I believe, in terms of my involvement and career.
Thank you, Miss Emma. I hope every young woman got empowered by these words. Now I'll give the floor to Miss Aisu.
Thank you, Marta. So actually, I was very lucky to have my family and environment in Turkey, because I never felt or experienced any gender discrimination myself, or someone says that I cannot do it because I am female. But I know many who had such obstacles, and I was raised in an environment where I can follow my passion with endless support, which also gives me motivation to work hard to achieve my goals. And I also agree with Emma. I always look for the right time to be in the right place to achieve such things. And also, I know that how important it is. So I am trying to create an environment for newer generations to pursue their passions without any discrimination. Because if you don't experience it, you feel more confident and you will have more encouraging environment. But if you are facing it, it will be more difficult to do achievements in your field. And for the obstacle part, after leaving my country to go abroad, one of my biggest obstacles is to adapt a new environment in Singapore to get one of the best education in clinical pharmacy. The studies were completely in English, which I never experienced before, and I was there to do PhD level studies. And I wouldn't say this obstacle again is related with being a woman, but it is more about your personality, your view, than a gender difference. Thank you.
Thank you for your vision, Miss Aisu. I'll give the floor now to Miss Bianca.
Thank you, Marta. I feel like we are on the right track. I mean, the future seems very optimistic, and I agree with also with Aisu and Emma. I think that from my perspective, I didn't feel any gender inequality, I don't know, issue, I would say there. But what I really felt compared, I mean, maybe in the opposition with what Emma was saying, I really felt that young part. You are young, so there is a mistrust there, but you are young at around 24. When I was 24, I felt that, and I think it's unfortunately, it's still seen as a default, as a normal thing. You don't see it as a discrimination yet, or at least I don't think that people are seeing it like that, but I think it somehow adds up to the what is still happening with the gender inequality. But I had situations where I felt that because I was young, there was mistrust there, or people weren't sure about that, so I needed to prove. So yeah, indeed, I had to work harder and smarter, which was not a problem. But I felt like the people that were thinking, okay, you are young, I don't know what to think about it, was not based on facts and evidence, which I really like. They were based on a mindset or a culture and history issue. So that's why I think in the future we also need to build on that and to really heal that part of, okay, you are young, but what matter if you have the competence and the knowledge. But I think that those were the obstacles that I felt, not because I was a female, but because I was young compared with other participants to the, I don't know, discussion or projects.
Thank you, Miss Bianca.
Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. So I have another question for our speakers. What kind of prejudice, if any, did you have to face? How did that make you feel? And where are you able to overcome these? So, and now I want to give the word to Miss Asa, please.
Thank you, Susanna. So when I was young, I was very quiet person. And so sometimes people can underestimate me before knowing me better. Because someone is quiet, we usually don't think that they can achieve some of the things, especially in the environment that I grow up. Then people think that I wasn't able to do the things that I achieved today. So this make me feel less confident when I was start new things. But today, with my increased self-confidence and awareness, of course, this is not an issue for me, but for younger myself, maybe it is a big issue, which lowers my confidence to start the new things. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you so much for the sharing. Now I give the word to Miss Bianca, please.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you for the question. I would still keep this part of actually young, to be the youngest person in the room. And also during the faculty, my attitude was a little bit, okay, we need to talk about what is not working, where we should intervene to make things better, which was not really comfortable for my professors. And I think that one of the prejudice that I encountered is that they were expecting that, okay, I would say what is not working, but I'm not studying. So at the beginning, when they said that I'm also studying very hard and I'm taking good marks, but also I'm saying what is not working, it was different. But the beginning, the attitude was, okay, you are saying a lot, but let's see you when we will have exams or so on. And I think I mean the feeling also with the young part and the other part was mainly frustration, because I mean, if something that bothers me a lot is the unfairness. So when you know that this is unfair, or at least the opinion is not based on evidence, as I was saying, it felt very frustrating. It was not fair. And I think that as a young person back in the faculty, I had some troubles in finding the mechanisms to actually get through this and continue my work and my dreams, because I'm also the person that you close the door, I will enter on through the window. So I think it took some time to actually find my mechanisms to go ahead, even though I had some obstacles or people that put me down.
Thank you so much. Now back to me. So I know you already touched a bit upon this question, but looking back, have you ever had any achievement in your life for the sake of proving that you could do it despite being a woman? So, and I would give the floor to Miss Bianca first.
I'm coming back to I think that the nuances are important. I think that I didn't have anything to prove that because I'm a woman, I needed to prove more. But because I was a young woman, I needed to prove more. So it was a lot about that. But you know, as Emma was saying, I'm optimistic, and I think that this is just up to one point. I mean, yeah, that's maybe you need to prove for a period of time, but up to one point when they know about you, or you are okay also with yourself. You, as Aisu were saying, the self-confidence and the self-esteem is on the right level, and that's when you realize that, okay, you don't need to prove anything, you just need to do your thing, and people that want to see will see. And maybe if people don't see it, maybe that's not your place.
Amazing. Thank you. I really love that. Miss Emma, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Well, I would agree with Bianca that in FIP, when I started, it was mostly about being young, not so much as being a woman. Well, maybe a little bit being a woman, but particularly being young. And I remember that at that time, there was a lot of interest from the board to really bring young people into the organization. So they told me that if we wanted the Young Pharmacists Group, we could press on having a change in the statutes that would ensure that there was a quota for young pharmacists to be part of the different boards in the different sections in FIP. And at that moment, I said, no. We are going to have young people there, but we are not going to do it through quotas. So yeah, we really worked hard in terms of identifying young pharmacists for the different sections and to put them there. And we did achieve that for the vast majority of things. So I would agree that it's just facing that initial well, not a barrier, but an initial push, and then moving forward and really preparing people. And then when the people are good, then you get other people to listen to them because they bring another perspective. And so that's why having young people is always good in organizations. I must say, however, that I haven't noticed that for a big part of my career and a big part of my experience in these last 20 to 20 something years. But being a president of the National Pharmacy Association now, I do perceive the glass ceiling a little bit more than I used to. I must tell you something that I had never experienced. So I've been noticing a little bit more that men tend to interrupt women much more than they tend to interrupt men when they're talking. And I've been noticing that in meetings where I'm almost always the only woman or second woman there. And I do notice this. And we, of course, there's a lot that has been done, but when we look at the statistics, we still see that in a world dominated by women, like being healthcare professionals, a huge percentage of the top positions are still occupied by men. And I do think that it's there's a lot of reasons why that occurs, including the some of the networking that occurs for men that usually does not provide the same space for women to participate. And also I believe that there's women usually tend to think a lot when they're asked to embrace certain challenges, and they often feel unprepared, and I think that we most often feel like the imposter syndrome, like now that I'm here, even when we do accept, now that I'm here, maybe I don't have the skills and I don't have the right capabilities. And usually what I've noticed is that unprepared men don't have any problems in saying yes and just going. for it. And I'm sorry for depicting this that way, but it's something that I've noticed more recently. Maybe I'm paying more attention, and I've also participated in a publication about gender equity, and we had to do a lot of research on that. So maybe I'm a little bit more aware of those types of things. So I do think that we have to have more women saying yes, and not always questioning themselves so much. And I think that looking at myself, I've always done a little bit of that, questioning and whether am I the right person, a little bit feeling the imposter syndrome. But I always shove that to the side. No, I'm going to say yes, there's an opportunity. If there's any additional preparation to be done, I will prepare myself afterwards. So no problem saying yes right now. So I think that, yeah, there is, going back to your question, there is prejudice, there is a glass ceiling, but I do think that it's up to the individuals as well to lean more, to lean forward, like one woman said, and not being afraid to put yourselves out there in a way.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's a really great message. And now the same question to Miss Ice. So looking back, I will just repeat it to refresh your mind. Looking back, have you ever had any achievement in your life for the sake of proving that you could do it despite being a woman? So please go ahead.
So thank you for the question. I will say the same thing. I think I was lucky enough that despite the traditional roles for men and women in our society, I wasn't brought up with a mindset that men and women do anything. So therefore, I never had to prove I did it despite just being a woman. But this mindset that men and women can do anything also encouraged me to have higher education without thinking that I cannot do it. So I think this, even I never faced such traditional effect, but I also believe some women also experiences such things. So this is also an issue for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now for the next question, Marta.
So my question is, in the pharmaceutical industry, as in other sectors, we usually see men in top positions, like Ms. Emos was saying. How do you interpret the reason for the situation, and what steps can we take to change the situation? And I'll have Emma answer first. Ms. Emma.
Yes, I think I've mentioned some of the things. Once I saw, because although of course every individual is an individual, and of course we are all different, but there are some commonalities between the majority of women and the majority of men, and I think that there is some research that shows that in a way, and there is this very interesting documentary from Michael Moore, so this guy from the US, and it's about which country should we conquer next, and basically he goes to different countries and he identifies good practices and says that America should conquer that, well, in different countries it's different things. Like for instance, from Portugal it was like our drug legislation. And for Iceland, it was the effort that Iceland has done in terms of ensuring gender equity. And the example that they give, and this is an interesting thing, is that Iceland had a big financial crisis, and all the banks went bankrupt. So the banking system had a lot of problems, and the only bank in Iceland that did not go bankrupt was the bank that was administered by women. And and basically they also did some research, and basically they ended up seeing that the women are usually more cautious when they're investing, and again, thinking things through, etc. And why am I saying this? Because often we tend to think that women have to be, some may think that women have to be more like men to be in leadership positions. And I think that if we have more women in leadership positions, that will change, that perception will change, because women will still be women with woman qualities and characteristics, and we will still be able to lead. And this was very important for me to understand now after 20 years in different leadership positions. I always thought that if I really wanted to be in the top position, I had to be a little bit more assertive. I had to be a little more aggressive. I had to be a little bit more like men when they're at the table and they're negotiating. And nowadays, I know that this is not true. We can be empathetic. We can be cautious. We can be kind, and we can be more like a consensus kind of leader, and we can still be a leader, and that can be the right thing for the organization at that time. So I think that this is an important thing that I've come to understand, is that I don't have to change traits in my personality to be a leader. But I do think that we need more women leaders with being women to for the society to understand that it's also possible to lead with those characteristics. So I think that the more we achieve this, the more this will be clearer for the society, and people will be more comfortable having women in leadership positions. Because unfortunately, in many circumstances, it's because of women that women are not in leadership positions. And we have to say that, and I think that we can't beat around the bush and not be completely straightforward. We have a lot of women very helpful and instrumental mentoring women in leadership, and I've known a few, fortunately, but we also have women that are not helpful at all for women to occupy leadership positions as men, of course. But I think that again, I think that we have to continue this transformative movement, but we also have to accelerate it, and to accelerate that movement, I think that it's up to individuals also, like I said, to lean forward, to say yes, and to prepare themselves well for the context that they will encounter.
Thank you so much, Miss Emma. Now I'll give the floor to Miss Aysu.
So in pharmacy and other health sciences like nursing, majority of the workforce and students are women, but we don't see them in leadership position. And this is something we know. And due to their caregiving responsibilities, women may have to take a leave of absence from work, which could also delay them from achieving higher level positions. And enhancing work-life balance within organizations, early leadership engagement, and access leadership opportunities can be the key actions for improving gender balance in women leadership. And I also agree, Emma, that mentoring programs can be also very supportive, especially in early careers for women. And for me, my faculty, we have many women deans over the years, and at FIP, we have the first woman, a CEO. So I believe there is a good progression on this issue, like increasing the awareness all around the world and also developing the FIPWISE toolkit for positive practice environments in women leadership can be also shows how FIP reflects about this women leadership situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aisu. Last but not least, Ms. Bianca, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Marta. Yeah, I would have, I would bring another perspective, and even though I agree with Emma, I think that this, I don't know, gender inequality is a historical issue, and it has been there for a lot of years. So I think that the mindset shift is very hard to achieve on a rapid way. And I think that where we should I don't know, maybe invest is education. I think that it's essential from like early ages to educate both males and females in terms of this issue. And then another perspective, which I know that Emma mentioned, not being really the best option, with the quota, gender quota. And I would say, I mean, I don't believe in siloed approaches. I think that the approaches that we give to this issue should be a comprehensive one. And I think that even though gender quota is very controversial, I think it is a mechanism that can temporarily, it's a very good word, and I would underline that. It's a mechanism that could work, and I would give an example because also Emma mentioned there is research that shows that the companies are more profitable if they have like women leaders, and we have usually the gender quota is in politics. And I would give just an example because I'm in Brussels. So Belgium introduced the gender quota in politics back before 1999. And they started from a 16% representation, women representatives in the Chamber of Representatives. And in 2007, they had 38%. And I think that even though, I mean, the gender quota should not be for an unlimited time because this is not healthy, but I think it's a temporary mechanism in order to support the mindset shift, because I think that there are so many years of wrong mindset, I would say, that I think that the mechanism should be from different angles and should be somehow collaborative. Thank you.
Thank you for your perspective, Ms. Bianca.
Susanna, with the second question.
Yeah, sorry. After all we have talked about so far, I'd like to know your point of view about the following. So, do you think that women being included in the workplace for only diversity reasons is a positive step? And I want to give the word to Ms. Aisu, please.
So similar to gender quota, I believe it can be a temporary solution in some places, regions, or countries, but it may not be a solution for all. To solve this problem, I think we must do needs-based assessment for young professionals and women in science and education from all regions to understand what really can solve the problem. And then we can provide specific solutions based on the regions, countries, and the places. So the one fits for all approach will not be applicable for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aisu. I know that Ms. Bianca already talked about in the last question, but you would like to add something more, Ms. Bianca?
I would add the fact that, I mean, from my point of view, positive discrimination and positive discrimination, I would say, so diversity, I think in a silo approach would have the potential to jeopardize actually the process. So I can agree with positive discrimination if it's supported by other indicators such as competence, knowledge. I mean, not alone, not just for the sake of inclusivity and diversity, but rather, okay, what are the indicators that we are looking at when choosing someone in a position or including someone there? And I think it's knowledge, competence, meritocracy. I think the indicators should support this type of diversity inclusion.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bianca. And now I want to know the point of view of Ms. Emma, please.
Yes, so I hate quotas, but I understand and acknowledge that they can accelerate the process. Because if we want to prove, like I said, that women can do it, and women can be ahead of banks and be in the leadership positions, and we can be there with the characteristics that are usually associated with women, we have to have women there. So I do agree that it can be a temporary solution. And it can accelerate, because at the pace we're at, it will take like 150 years to achieve equity, and I think that I certainly do not have 150 years. So I do think that it can be. I do agree with Bianca that it should be considered alongside meritocracy and the characteristics of the individual, and to ensure that the people that are then included in this diversity quotas or positions, that people are well prepared and to contribute, and they are given the opportunity to contribute. You can't just have people there for the sake of just saying that you have a woman there, or a young person there, or an ethnic minority person there. You have to really give the person the floor and the chance to contribute and to prove themselves. So I do agree that this can be a temporary solution, and it in some cases maybe it's the only solution, and it's the only mechanism whereby we can ensure that women start to participate, or other minorities start to participate, and particularly be leaders or any other or be in any other position. So yeah. Although I hate it, I think it's probably necessary.
Thank you for sharing your opinion, Ms. Emma. Now, the next question of mine is, how do you feel about the progress that women have already achieved so far? And do you think that it can be jeopardized moving forward? So basically, is there only going up, or do you see another way? So Ms. Emma, would you like to be the first?
No, I definitely think that there are several things that can jeopardize it. Aisu has already mentioned the work-life balance and the fact that women usually take some time off due to pregnancy and other type of family affairs. And usually when there's a person that's sick in the family, it's women that usually take some time off and usually occupy the informal caregiver role. And we've seen that also. We've done a report in the FIP about informal caregivers, and the vast majority are women, of course. They are the ones who are usually taking care of the elderly at home, etc. And I think that with the increase in terms of the increased pressure on efficiency for companies, and it can, again, it may seem like hiring a woman may pose a threat for the efficiency of the company. So companies may prefer to hire men and to have men just because they can't afford having people take time off, or having breast feeding time and things like that. So I think that we definitely have to consider that when we are talking about labor legislation, and how do we ensure that companies are not penalized for hiring women, and that we create environments in big companies, etc., that are conducive to women being able to bring their children and have daycare in the facilities, or things like that. So I really think that this discussion is important. And also this has been more like the past couple of weeks or 3 weeks from now, because I saw this woman presenting herself and presenting her case about a transgender woman now, that was participating in women's sports, and they were talking about he actually wasn't transgender, but he said that he identified as a woman, and he was allowed to compete with the women and was winning everything. So it was like a swimming competition. So I think that this whole discussion about identities and this will also have an impact in this gender discussion, and we have to acknowledge that it will have an impact, and we have to start including that in the discussion as well, what it means for people to identify as both genders, and men saying that they experience women's that were until today women's unique experiences, like the menstrual cycle or period, and now men saying that they feel it the same because I identify as a woman. And yeah, I think that this is a very complex topic and a very complex discussion, but I really think that if we don't tackle it now, and we include it in this gender equity discussion, we will maybe this will have the effect of jeopardizing the progress that we've done so far. Yes.
Thank you so much. And now, Ms. Aisu, how do you feel about the progress women have already made, and do you think it can be jeopardized?
Thank you, Philip. So I'm very positive. There's a great progress and awareness about the issue compared to past. For example, one of FIP's initiative called FIPWISE is developed to champion and enable women in pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacy education to achieve their fullest potential and to attract female students and young professionals into these fields. And we also have FIP DG10 equity and equality goals. And under this development goal and program, FIP also developing many initiatives, projects and programs. And I am also familiar with other organizational initiatives like from Women in Global Health. And I don't want to believe it can be jeopardized by men. So women must fight for their rights, and we must work with men with shoulder to shoulder on this issue. And we must also include men to have equality and equity for women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the same question for Ms. Bianca.
Thank you. I feel like the achievements so far, or this entire process, is like a train that has already started going, and it's a process that's I mean, very hard. I think from my point of view, the jeopardizing will be possible by different external factors, but I think that what can jeopardize the process is exactly what I was saying about the siloed approaches, and that could lead to some extremes. As we were talking about positive discrimination, if we don't actually manage to integrate it in a more comprehensive system or approach, it may be that these extremes, I think, that may jeopardize the process and can actually go to less trust in the process or the possible achievements of the process. So I think that's why, and I agree with Emma, that we need to bring to the discussion that we have on these different topics, different, I don't know, situations that we are dealing with right now, in order to be able to tackle them maybe earlier than later, when they maybe can be late and can go to some extremes. So I would believe that even though I'm saying it I don't know how many times, but the underlying the fact that we really need collaborative approaches and to think about it in a more systemic perspective, not really individualistic one.
Thank you so much.
So I'll now be starting with Miss Aisu. So Miss Aisu, what advice would you give to younger, to your younger version of yourself, and how would you encourage young women to conquer their dreams?
Thank you for the question, Marta. I would advise myself to be more confident and stop worrying about those who were trying to discourage me to follow my passion in science and education. Because in Turkey, it is easy path to go for opening a community pharmacy where you can earn more. But I didn't choose this path. And I might advise my younger version that do not waste your time even thinking about it. So, but I know in other countries, the community pharmacy practices are also different, but it is a situation in our country. And for younger women, I encourage you to be hardworking, never lose your sight of what is important, and yes, you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Aisu. I'll now be asking the same question to Miss Bianca.
Thank you. How many time do we have for this? Joking, but I think I would say that, I mean, just be bold and be curious to explore. I know that strategic planning and very certain, I don't know, plans are more comfortable, just take risks. Be open to explore new things, new paths, new areas. You have time to do that, and it can be possible. And also, I think that you should not take into considerations those that want to put you down, and just be confident in yourself and be authentic and genuine. Don't try to fit in I don't know what pattern, I don't know what perfect image. Just be yourself. And as Rukaya, I saw that she wrote in the chat that there are not so many opportunities for women in India. Just look for outside of India, look for scholarships, look for, I don't know, exchanges that are possible. Just try to follow your dreams, even though not in your immediate context. Yeah, and that basically I would say to my younger self, but also to other women.
Thank you, Miss Bianca. Now the same question to Miss Emma.
Yes, so I've mentioned it before about the importance of saying yes. And I just realized this because I was talking to this man from the International Pharmaceutical Federation, and he was congratulating me for something, achieving something in the organization. Maybe it was when I was elected for the executive committee. And I told him, well, really, I don't know how I got here. And he said, well, I know perfectly well how you got here. You just kept saying yes. And at that moment, it was just a click in my mind. Yes, that's exactly it. I just kept saying yes to the challenges, to the opportunities, to the learning opportunities, to being mentored, to having a chat with some people talking about their own experience. So I would say to myself, just keep saying yes. Yeah, and you'll be fine. That's what I would say. Yeah, and for all other women out there, young women, I would say the same. Don't double think. Yeah, just do it. Lean forward and just take the seat at the table. You'll manage it fine.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you. I'll be taking your words throughout my life from now on.
Unfortunately, this is our last question. And throughout the panel, we talk a little bit about the dynamics between work and personal life. But I would like to ask for a final note on the subject. So how do you manage to balance your work life with your personal family life? And I want to give the word to Miss Bianca, please.
Thank you. This is a tough one. Because I mean, we were used to really, as I was saying about the proving and keep going. I used to be an workaholic. I still am from time to time, but I'm on the process of healing that problem. And I think that I think that if you don't have enough resources for yourself, you can't really deliver and contribute to others or for other projects. And there is a quote that I really like. It says that you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's how I see it in terms of just take care of yourself, of your needs, of your hobbies, of your family. And I think that the highlight of my last year was exactly this. I learned how to take care of myself. I discovered new hobbies. I returned to some old ones. I love to host my community of friends, so I did that because it was good for my mental health. And I think I'm a very now I wouldn't say dependent, but for me, my community of people is super important. And I would say that it's important to take care of who is around you and to be those that are really good for your mental health. And now with the work-life balance, in terms of, I think I'm in the process. I still do mistakes, but I think it's human. But what I can say is that you need to take care of yourself and to think about, okay, what are the needs? And that's my purpose. Okay, what are my needs in terms of like me as a person, and that's how I manage to balance it, which can be challenging sometimes.
Yes, thank you so much for all the things you share with us today, Miss Bianca. And now the same question for me, Miss Jesus, please.
I am a very organized person, I must say. So I take notes for every task and schedule it. Balancing my personal and work life isn't an issue for me when everything goes with the schedule and with the plan. But I am also trying to be learning to be flexible and not put too much pressure on myself when the plans go wrong. And since I am able to organize everything, I can enjoy my moments with work and also leisure activities. And now I am not doing any folk dance, but I am meeting with my friends, doing pilates, visiting some nearer places for sightseeing. And I can also see many places all around the world when I am in business trips for FIP and for academia. So I am trying to manage work life and my personal life, like scheduling everything in my agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss. I identify with you because I have an agenda and I follow that also. Thank you so much. And now, last but not least, I want to give the word to Miss Eva. Sorry.
Yes, so thank you. Well, I don't work 40 hours a week. I work much more than that. So and I like it. And before I think I was a little bit embarrassed to say that in some instances working, and particularly being in organizations and representing people, is a hobby for me. I really like to, I enjoy it and I like to do it. I like to read about pharmacy. I like to discuss about pharmacy. So I do tend to do a lot around pharmacy. Also, like I mentioned, my husband is a pharmacist. So at home, we usually have a lot of discussions about how to move forward with our companies and in our work life. But I also, like I mentioned, I really enjoy music. I love watching TV. I'm a multitasker. I know that according to research, you really can't multitask. It's not physically and scientifically possible, but I love watching TV series whilst I work. So I tend to do that a lot. So I have a lot of friends who are waiting outside for me to celebrate my birthday. Are friends that I have from primary school. So the two girls I showed with my sister when we were out at Coachella, they are friends from primary school. So we've kept in touch. We go to a lot of concerts together, and we discuss about movies and films. And we always take at least 1 week per year to go, the three of us, someplace. Yeah, I'm a very efficient person. I'm also very organized, like Aisu mentioned, but I do organize a lot of work outside working hours, I must say. But it's quite okay for me. It has worked for me, and but it is very important to be conscious about your own limits, and to be aware of your mental health. So whenever I feel that I need to take time off, I take time off. And I do spend, now when I travel, for instance, I always get like 2 extra days so I can visit the place. And I like driving a lot. And whilst I'm driving, I'm not answering emails. So that's fantastic for me. I can't multitask at that time. So that's something that I do as well. I drive a lot. Yeah, I try to balance that way. But mostly I think that every person is an individual, but we do have to take care of our mental health. And if you feel that you need time for yourself, then definitely take it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering all our questions. So unfortunately, we have come to the end of the panel discussion, but I am sure everyone learned a lot and is inspired to move on forward. So thank you again for our speakers for joining us, and thank you to the participants for joining, and as well as my team, Ms. Susana, Ms. Marta, for moderating the panel discussion. As a final word, I would like to ask you all to please submit the feedback form, which I will share in chat now. So this is for us to know how we can improve on future events. And I will give the final word to Ms. Ozge, which is the Euro Regional Media and Publications Officer.
Thank you for all who joined us today, and thank you for our speakers who inspired us a lot as a young woman. And we will take a photo together. So I would like to ask if you can open your cameras, please. We are waiting for you. We will glad if you can open them. I'm very happy to see your lovely faces. Okay, then 3, 2, and 1. And one more. Thank you so much. And I would like to share our social media accounts in the chat box. We would be very happy if you follow us from our social media. You can follow our more exciting IPSF Euro events and social media campaigns, health campaigns from our Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ozge, and thank you again, everyone, for joining. This
Thank
will be the
you.
end And happy birthday, Emma Paulina. As a
Thank
final
you.
note, enjoy your birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.